Oh, we're live. Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Oh,
How's
wow.
it
Hey,
going?
Gabby.
Hey, Kirsten, how are you?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. Still a little tired and still a little, oof. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited about the online teaching show and how it's gone. What was your impression from your presentation on Thursday?
Oh, I was so thrilled, especially with the participation from viewers. And I hope that this evening for me, or this afternoon, or this morning for you, that people will be here and just say hello and let us know what questions you may have. We're going to be getting into some questions and answers today. And anyway, I've just been thrilled with the participation on the Facebook event page. You know, you never know what to expect, but I've been really happy and just meeting new people through this event. It's been awesome.
I agree. I agree. I've had so much fun. I really love running these Facebook events just because they give us a chance to interact with people and you can share, we can use technology to our advantage and really show, what we can do and what Google can do and, how it's all working out. And I really enjoy doing this type of event. And I'm so grateful to have had you and Lena both as
Yeah.
co-presenters and both participating in this, triple lady threat.
I think it's fantastic, and I really appreciate that you've been instrumental bringing us together to do this event. And it's the first time that I've done a live event actually in a Facebook event, so like a Google Hangout on air in the Facebook page. And I think that's so cool. I love the technology and how it's so easy to come together online. So thank you for that.
Mhm. It's a bit of it's almost like a loophole, isn't it? Because Google doesn't
Yes.
tell you that this works and Facebook doesn't tell you that this works. And I saw it somewhere else. And this is how we ran. It's my second event that I have run like this. We previously ran an event called the Language Book Club. And Language Book Club worked in a similar way. And we had interviews with all these different authors of language books. So we had Gabriel Weiner, who is a sort of polyglot author, and Benny Lewis, who is also a polyglot author.
Wow.
And I
Big
made
names.
contact with Becky Morales, who has written this thing called the Global Education Toolkit. And I had her on my podcast later. She's such a lovely lady. And we literally, me and Chris Broholm from Denmark, we did it all in one day. I had 8 hours of just
Wow.
interviews with people. It was crazy. So this is
Oh,
it's such a fun way of, really people participating. And can I just say, I mean, I've had Bob and Barbara have been extremely active.
yes.
We've had
I think
Lorena has been great.
Caroline and
Caroline.
a few other people who attended my sessions as well. I've just been really happy. And people from all over the world, which is so cool.
I know there's people saying hello from Poland, hello from Vietnam, hello from California, hello from
Yeah.
New Orleans and Miami, and God, these are all these places I've never been. So I've been to
I
Poland.
see. I see right now we have, let's see, I just lost it, but there was someone from California said hello right now. Yes, is it Guadalupe, I believe?
Mhm.
Hello. Awesome. So yeah, if you are watching right now, it would be awesome if you'd say hello in the comments box. I always love to see who's here. And
Mhm.
this is really an opportunity for questions. We do have some questions and answers prepared, but this is your chance to, speaking to you, the viewer, this is your chance to spring some questions on us. So we're in the hot seat. So if you have a
Yeah,
burning
and
question,
really, you can ask us anything. It doesn't have to be so. If you can't think of anything teaching related that we haven't told you yet, or if something in our presentations didn't make sense, to be honest to you, and you want to kind of go back over it, then please, ask us to bring it back up. But you can ask us about our own stories as well, or who we look to, because I think that's always very interesting.
yeah.
So, shall we start with our little prep? Do you want to start, Gabby, with a question?
Let's do it. Yeah, because I received a couple of questions about YouTube that I didn't have the chance to answer before. So I'm just scrolling down to find those in the events. I think Bob and Barbara, who you mentioned before, they asked a couple questions about their YouTube channels. And this will be great to actually discuss it with you here. So Bob asked, well, now my Facebook's going crazy. Bob asked, I have a channel, but for various reasons have only put some Powtoons up. Are these likely to attract customers? So first of all, a Powtoon is like a cartoon. It's like a free website where you can make some really cool professional looking cartoons. And so they're not, the videos are not showing your face, but it's more of a like an animation, and you can add a voiceover if you want to. So he's asking, how likely are these to attract customers? You know, well, let me ask you first. I don't want to, you know, jump ahead, but I have kind of an opinion. But what do you think, Kirsten?
So these are the little, like the little pictures where you got a hand drawing something, and you get they're pushing things left, right, and center. Yeah.
Exactly. Sorry if I didn't explain very clearly. Yeah, it's like an animation. You can add text, but it's literally just like animated characters kind of running around. It's like a PowerPoint, but better because it's crossed with an animation. So it's not just like the dry old school PowerPoint slides. It's like things are moving, and it's cute and playful and sort of modern. And so I like Powtoons. I think they're cool. But yeah, I'll hold my tongue until you answer. Yeah.
It's an interesting question to ask. How likely are they to attract customers? Well, I think it depends, Bob, on what your Powtoons or what your animations are about, because ultimately, sort of like I mentioned in the presentation earlier, is what's going to attract your customers and what's going to make you stand out, in my opinion.
Well, one thing one thing you always talk about, Kirsten, is branding and figuring out who your ideal audience is. So
yeah.
You know, I think that point is really relevant here. Bob makes videos about English grammar. I see one he posted here about the present perfect. So I think that to explain grammar, he's using these kind of fun animations. Yeah. So I mean,
but does it then? Is it clear to people watching these that this translates to what your lessons are going to be like? So is that going to say, if Gabby's doing a video on YouTube where you see her face explaining the grammar, and it's very clear that this is her, she is the teacher, then the step from that to, hey, you look cool, I want you to teach me, is really obvious because you see that it's her explaining it. But if you take your face out of it, it's still your voice, maybe voiceovering, I presume. If you are still voiceovering and you say, hey, I'm Bob, this is what I do in my lessons, if you make it really, really clear, that could still really work. I think that is fine, but it's got to be, I think this is the whole brand thing, isn't it? It's got to be you. Yeah. It's got to be, because otherwise you are making a resource that people like, but they don't know it's you. They don't make that connection where it actually came from.
Like, your power as an entrepreneur online comes from being you, from being unique. And so if you're creating something like a Powtoon, you have to make it unique to you somehow. It could be that you develop your own style with the Powtoon, or maybe you use Powtoon sometimes and then you have your face or maybe something unique about how you teach. I don't know exactly, you know, what, I can't say what Bob's unique point is yet, but my advice, I guess, would be try not to be generic. Don't use Powtoon be like everyone else. You know, it's professional, it looks cute, but you have to like bring yourself into it somehow. You don't have to show your face, I don't think, but the connection you made actually was really interesting about like, what are people getting in a lesson with you? Like, if you're offering one-to-one Skype lessons, is that going to be totally different than your videos on YouTube? And people are going to be a little bit shocked, like, oh, I didn't think, you know, I thought this was going to be different. Like, if you're posting Powtoons on YouTube, then maybe you want to make a video course that's using, you know, the same format instead of Skype lessons. I don't know. That's just what comes to mind for me.
That's a very good idea. That's a very good idea. And it kind of brings it back to, I'm glad you were saying that about, you know, like if people don't see what they're getting, you know, because it's back to the presentation I did just an hour ago, which was about keeping what you promise, right? You got to promise people something, and then you got to keep your promise to them. And that's essentially your whole brand and your consistency thing. You've got to be consistent with what you promise and what people get later. So I like the Powtoons, but also there's a thing, and Gabby, this is interesting. What do you think about ESL teachers, etc.? I see an awful lot of blog articles that are just about, say, phrasal verbs or sort of this grammatical thing. So essentially what you're doing is you're writing a resource. And I often look at that, and I'll be honest, my personal opinion, and you can see in my blog Fluent, and I've always been a German teacher online, and like a German and French teacher I used to be. Every now and then I write a little bit about Germany or about German, but I never try to be super generic. I never try to just go, okay, today I'm covering the past participle, because I feel that it's
boring.
It's boring. It's bland, right? And I see a lot of
say it.
So I don't think that really, yes, you might get a few students who Google for that kind of thing, but is that going to get them excited? I'm not sure.
No,
I never felt it was exciting.
It's a really good point. And yes, on one hand, there are a lot of English learners Googling how to use the present perfect. So, Bob, that's a good topic actually, but I agree with you, Kirsten, that you have to make it unique. And for example, if you're teaching the present perfect, talk about some real life example, maybe from your life or maybe from your English class, if you're currently a classroom teacher. Or you could talk about, last time I spoke about this with my student, I don't know, you can make up a name. My student's Mohammed, we talked about how to use it in his job interview. And so make it personal. Do not just sound like you're reading a textbook, because why wouldn't you just read a textbook then? If you're the student, you're looking on YouTube for something that's easy to digest, something that's interesting, something that's fun. And even if you're using a fun animation, but you're just like reading a textbook, it's still going to be pretty boring, I think. So, and
for both of us, this is very interesting because we both follow this principle, and you tend to do it on YouTube, and I tend to do it in writing on my blog. But also, my most popular article is actually about German, but it just happened to be extremely timely, and it's about. This is not about German rules or anything, because I've never written about that. It's about things you can shout at the television during the Football World Cup.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Well, and it was because I had just gotten I've got my German supporter shirt. I am a German football supporter. We are the best football team in the world.
Of course. That's awesome.
And it was just, so I think I happened to hit a nerve during a time when I saw a massive spike in traffic when Germany beat Brazil 7-2, which I didn't know was going to happen, but I was very excited, and I was shouting in German at the television. So, it happened to hit a nerve, along with having my personality in there, being like a person who likes football.
Totally. And so
it's got both.
Yeah, it's including your personality. It's running with the current topic, which was the World Cup, and thinking about how English learners are applying the grammar. So it's not just this is the grammar, but this is the application of the grammar, right?
Yeah,
so,
and it had this rant from a very famous football coach who is an Italian guy, lived in Germany in the 90s, and he had this beautiful rant. He went on for about 10 minutes in very broken German. But it didn't matter, right? He was so riled up. He just went for it. Completely got his message across. It was very clear. It became a complete classic, and I loved it. And I used that to say to people, look, it doesn't matter if you're perfect. You just, this guy gets his message across. Watch him. And that kind of brought it back to my message, which is very often how I teach. It's to say to people, you just want to, just get your message across. So it's personality and kind of just really keep it within what you actually think about what you're teaching.
Right.
And bring that together with real life applications.
About personality, I just want to take that point and quickly answer Barbara Brown's question here too. She is asking about those of us that are camera shy and don't really want to be in front of a camera. What are the alternatives, like doing audio or presentation only with video, and what's most effective? And I think these two questions, from Bob and from Barbara are kind of related. So I just wanted to quickly touch on this one for Barbara and for other people who feel the same way. I know there's a lot of people who don't like being on camera, and that's totally fine. But personality, look, remember when people used to listen to the radio? Like, I don't know if you do anymore, but some people still do. But why do people love radio personalities? They're not on camera, but they have a personality. It's like you can use your voice as a very powerful tool. You don't have to show your face, but if you're using a slide and you're doing a voiceover, please, please, please use your voice to show your personality, to share some interesting points. Don't mumble, don't speak in like a really quiet voice. That's going to kill your videos. So I think, yeah, you can definitely use PowerPoint, make a video. There's some technical points that I don't think we're going to get into right now about how to do that, but it's not too difficult. You can make a PowerPoint and a voiceover. You can make a Powtoons like Bob does. There's a lot of different ways to make a video without showing your face if that's just not what you want to do.
Yeah. Or you could podcast. So if you're really camera shy and you just don't like it, that's certainly the route I've gone down, and I just kind of broadcast and podcast.
Totally. And you know what? Maybe someday we'll have to do another one of these where we focus on podcasting, because I also podcast. And, this time I focused on YouTube, but we can certainly talk, for hours about podcasting. I love it.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of awesome stuff. Right. There's a question from Leandra I really want to get to, which I thought was really interesting. Okay, so she has a question about hiring teachers. So imagine your business is going well, you get new inquiries. Right. So how do you go about hiring teachers? At which stage in your business? Any tips? What to do? What to avoid? How to pay? I wish Lena was here, because she has a lot of. She had to excuse herself because of the time and family commitments in Lawrence. So I'll be catching up with Lena, and I would recommend that you message her, Leandra, or I'll actually tag her here in the video thread later on, and I'll actually ask her to comment on it as well. And she has a few great blog articles about this. But in my experience, I went down this road once with online teaching, and I hired, and it wasn't online teaching, it was face-to-face. I hired a Spanish teacher who I had a contract with, and she covered a few group courses for me here locally. So what happened was that in terms of payment, people just paid me and I paid her by the hour. So essentially I took the risk for her, and she knew she was going to turn up. She was going to get X amount an hour. And then this was how it was going to work for her. And then later on, the way it worked was when we got private inquiries, again, I processed all the payments for her. I took the online payments, and she had a little profile on my website. And then essentially I just took a cut of the lessons that she delivered. I didn't feel like, I'll be honest with you, I didn't feel like that was the way I wanted to go after a little while. I didn't feel confident with it. Maybe I was at such an early stage of my business that I didn't feel right outsourcing that particular bit. And ultimately, I didn't want to become a language school. But if I had a language school, and especially for the group classes, it was pretty straightforward. I'd say get somebody or advertise for somebody. Take your time. Always takes way longer to find somebody than you think it will. Takes like 2 or 3 weeks at least, even if you're full of, even if the pond is full. Make sure you have a way of staying in touch with the students and making sure they're satisfied and they're happy. And what I found is people were loving her. People were really having a great time with that particular teacher. And just get a contract into place as soon as possible. And make sure, I can only speak for the UK, make sure he or she is self-employed, so that it doesn't fall on you at this early stage in your business to completely cover the healthcare, etc. So I don't know how it works in beautiful Barbados, but it's important. Gabby, what's your experience?
Yeah, I'll comment on this too, because I've been there as well. And so at which stage in your business? I love this question, because I think it's ultimately up to you to decide, but the way you decide at what point is you need to decide what you want to be doing. Do you want to be working directly with the learners, or do you want to be more of a manager and administrator or owner of your business? So you need to make that decision first and first and foremost. And if you don't want to, or perhaps you just feel like you don't have the time to be working one-on-one, then that's a great time to perhaps hire a teacher. So how do you go about it? I love what you said about taking your time. There's some phrase I go by: hire slowly and fire quickly, which sounds kind of tough, but I think that's smart. And it's okay to ask for a trial lesson. You know, you can ask your interviewee to, you know, do a practice lesson on you, or, you know, a friend of yours or something. It's part of the interview process, you know. I don't know if I would do a trial lesson with an actual client, but definitely have a contract in place. What kind of contract or what you include in the contract is up to you. But, you know, typical things are like, you know, you won't go off and, you know, do private lessons with this student, like outside of the business, you know, because you want to protect your interests as the person who's putting a lot of time and effort into arranging this setup and the marketing and reaching out and everything. So about payments, definitely check your local tax laws. You know, we're talking about international employment here. And what you said about the person being self-employed or a freelancer is really important, because if they're your employee, then you suddenly become responsible for their health insurance and other complicated paperwork. So if you can work with someone who's kind of a self-employed freelancer, you could online, you could probably do this by, you know, perhaps using a site where a lot of freelancers work, like Odesk, or Odesk has now changed to Upwork. They just changed their name. Anyway, there's Elance as well, and there's a number of other freelancer sites. So if you actually use them as kind of a middle ground to make sure that everyone is, you know, happy with the work, it could be a solution. I'm not sure. You really have to look at your own regulations where you live.
I would use them as the middleman, but generally work with somebody I know and trust beforehand.
Yes.
So that you don't necessarily have to find your, say if you have your online teacher that you want to work with and that you think you trust them to deliver a decent lesson, etc., and you want to try it out, you could use the environment and the kind of framework of something like Elance or Upwork or whatever, or People Per Hour is another one. If you want to a safe processing of online payments, etc., because that's always important. But and they often have contract templates and kind of thing, that kind of thing to kind of work through. But, you know, work with somebody. Don't feel obliged to find somebody on that platform. I very often have worked with people for smaller jobs like video editing and stuff that have been recommended to me and then asked me to move to that platform because she liked the payment processing on there.
Right. It's just a way to sort of organize your payments as well. The freelancer can actually bill you if that makes it easier for you. I don't know. But you could also just use PayPal or something like that to pay your teacher after the lesson takes place. And you want to have a system to keep track of the lessons, you know, especially when things happen like no-shows or, you know, on either side, on the learner's side or on the teacher's side. Hopefully it wouldn't happen on the teacher's side. But, you know, even something as simple as an Excel sheet in Google Docs could help a lot, but you have to have a system to keep track of things.
I've also worked with friends just who were running, often I've done this locally, much more than online. And online, I tend to work, I do work with people, of course, but I haven't really outsourced my lessons or anything like that, or my courses. Online, it's always been focused on the areas of outsourcing things like a little bit of administrative assistance, or just basically making more time so that I can then focus on teaching. And what I have done to kind of accommodate for that is price my teaching services at a level that I felt took that in and kind of, you know, allows for me to be, I often say to my students, you know, you want me to be the best teacher that I can be, and you want me to kind of turn up and not. And this is a thing I very often say, like, you know, when I was talking to you last year at a podcast, and this is why I started with Savvy Brand Toolkit, is do it for the industry. You know,
Yes.
if you are price dumping teacher and you're thinking of taking on more teachers to teach at like a very low rate because you want to maintain the low rate, you could actually just raise your rate, theoretically. I know some teachers feel that that is very prohibitive, and that is entirely justified if that's how you want to think. But if you're thinking of your business as a business, I think you are looking at taking responsibility for other teachers, then I think you need to think of your lessons as a kind of product, and at least do that thought exercise. No one says you have to go ahead with it, but you know, just take.
No,
we are teachers. We always want to help, but take charity out of it for a minute.
I agree. And I think that point about raising your rates goes perfectly with maybe the last question. I just saw Francis Walker is asking a question here about
fits very well, doesn't it?
Do you think a niche should be? And so I think very specific. And I think the more specific your niche, then the more you can charge, right? Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and there's a thing I've been telling people about niche, because when I did more presentations about this and I started talking to people, I very often ask people, hey, what's your niche? And what they tend to say is, I teach English to people in Korea, or I teach English to people in Poland. And I'm thinking, okay, that's a niche, I guess. And that's a bit like saying, I'm an English teacher and I have blog articles about English. And it's sort of, I'm still very bland. So what I often try to work with my students through is the process of, say, for example, Savvy Brand Toolkit, which is not, sorry, it's not a plug. It's just, this is how I work through niche finding, basically. It's
plug what are your strengths? You have a great course, plug it.
Well, it is awesome, or at least people like it, I think. It's very good.
Isn't there like a special discount with this event? If
no
we go
way!
I'm just saying, what is it? So fluentlanguage.co.uk/show discounts, right?
Perfect. Last day today. I'm taking this discount off tomorrow. Seriously, this is normally 147. I normally charge for it, and it's well worth that. But today, you can get it for $75.
That's crazy.
$75. Yeah. Well, that's why it's going away.
and quick plug for my YouTube course. 7 Days to Be Seen is on a super early bird discount for only $17, which is really extremely low. Yeah, it's going up to $97 tomorrow. So you might want to jump in if you're interested in getting started or improving your YouTube channel. So sorry to cut in with the plug, but I think it's actually helpful for people to know about these deals so that, you know, they don't find your website tomorrow and think, oh, I wish I heard about that yesterday.
That's true. Well, if you send me a begging email tomorrow, I might.
I won't.
Yeah, I would. We're nice. Okay, so coming back to what it actually is about, I guess, the idea of niche building that I kind of built through that is you start with you. You start with, me, you. You start with yourself and think about, okay, well, what do I actually like? What am I actually really good at? What are my strengths? What is my background? What am I, like beyond your qualification as a TESOL teacher? What's your thing? What's your story? Are you from, and then instantly, for example, you might be Australian. You might be, you might have grown up in a cowboy ranch. You might be American. You might be British, etc., etc. Okay, niche, the first starts, right? You might be really enthusiastic. You might be a sort of almost drill sergeant, exam prep person. You might really love rules. You might be super logical. All these aspects of your personality. You might have a hobby that you really love. You might be into cooking. You might be into athletics, etc. You might be like Gabby, who did the Ironman last year. So already all these different aspects are opening up. And we're not restricting those yet, not going like, oh, that's nothing to do with English, because it actually is most of it. And then the second thing is, what's your ideal student? Earlier, I was telling the story of the kid I got so excited about coaching into private school, which ended up being, I didn't get fired, I got very gently let down. within like 2 weeks because it just was never going to happen. It wasn't right. It wasn't my style, but I really wanted it to work because I was so excited to start teaching. No, stupid idea. Think about what kind of lesson you actually want to do. So the second bit about niche finding is really, who's your ideal student? And including in your ideal student, I always include in that somebody who pays on time, somebody who pays your rate, somebody who does their homework, if you set the homework, who actually respects the fact that you're putting time into this. But then also, is it somebody who's studying at home? Is it somebody in their workplace? Is it somebody who is successful and driven and ambitious? That's usually kind of my line. I really like working with adults. So I don't tend to target kids. So again, so now I have my personality and that, and I can push that, kind of put that together and sort of look at kind of a joint niche. And then the niche becomes about what situation is your person in. Yeah. It's not about anymore like I teach English to Koreans, which is actually really, it's a lot wider and blander than you want it to be. And if a Japanese person came who's the perfect student for you, suddenly like what is that about? So instead, if it's about the situation they're in, so for example, they are 3 weeks away from the IELTS and they're in a massive panic. It's like Gabby says, you can charge those people if you know I can get you through the next weeks because I am calm, I have stress management experience, and I am really good at exam coaching, and we're going to get you, I'm really good at teaching you the writing. Those are the skills that they actually need. They don't really need English grammar as much as they need all those other skills that you can provide. So niche, to me, is about the situation your customer is in and the situation that you're happy to put yourself into as well. Yes, that is kind of how I work around it. What do you think?
Yeah, and absolutely, I totally agree. I think another point to consider is, who do you really want to work with? I was listening to a podcast episode with two of my favorite people. Srini Rao of the Unmistakable Creative was interviewing Tim Ferriss, the author of 4 Hour Workweek, two people who are hugely inspirational to me. And one point that came up that Tim said is, you need to figure out who you want to work with, or with whom do you want to work, if I'm going to be an English teacher about it. And I just thought that's really a mindset shift. And you, for example, you know, even if you don't have a lot of experience, let's say I want to work with English learners who are entrepreneurs. Well, I can help those entrepreneurs because I know my English, you know, I can teach English like nobody else. So you need to show those people how you can benefit them specifically, whether you do or don't have experience. If you do, you know, if you have a business experience or entrepreneurship experience, even better, if you can match your experience with the people with whom you want to work. But think about, who is your ideal client? And Bob just made a comment at the moment. I would just settle for one that pays. Yeah, sure, of course. But now you have to think about, why would a student who pays, why would they want to work with you? So it's sort of a nice relationship. You have to think about how you can benefit that type of ideal client. So who is someone that pays? And I know, Bob, I know you're joking. I can take a joke, but you know.
No, but the other side of that as well is about you taking that, and this is Bob's in my, I met Bob through my Udemy course, which is about kind of like taking that power of saying, I'm a professional, you know, I'm here and I'm a pro and you better respect me, you know, here are my terms and conditions. And I think that's really important, you know, because there's something about, again, because I think a lot of us are teachers and we're so, I personally, I'm just really nice. And and I try to be extremely generous, and I don't like being, sometimes I don't like being a pro about it because it's harsh, but you've got to, because this is you look after number one first, and you have to, the money that changes hands when students pay you is about you being able to do this like in 3 weeks still, and thereby becoming a more experienced and better teacher. Because otherwise, it's just going to be rubbish ones everywhere if everybody's in their first week and then stops because no one pays.
Oh, exactly. Well, I think you have to be that pro, and not only tell people, but even more importantly, show people. And so that's why I keep pushing the idea of having a YouTube channel, because it's a great way to show people that you are a professional and you know your stuff. So I hope you guys heard me. It froze just for a second.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we could talk about this all night. I love talking about online teaching business. And I know you do too, Kirsten. I just love it. And
it's terribly interesting. And I like helping and kind of sharing the little experience that we, like, I mean, and if Gabby and I have messed up, that's good, because then you don't have to do the same messing up, and that's why we're here talking about it, right?
Exactly. Absolutely. I think, are those all the questions we have time for?
I think most of they are. Today? That is it. I wanted to share an example of an English learning website, and I'll try and screen share it, that I thought I was very impressed by. And this is from a lady in our group called, and I swear to God, I'm not joking, she's called Kristen Hammer, because I'm pretty sure that's how somebody has spelled my name before. My name is not Kristen Hammer. My name is Kirsten Hammers, and it's downtoearthenglish.com. And I just want to give a shout out to Kristen, who submitted her website in this group. And I'm just going to share it with you guys. Just a sec. Can you see this, Gabby?
Oh, cool. Yeah, I can see that. Nice video background there.
I know. Yeah, it's a little bit hyper when you look after it for a while, but if you first come. And so what I really like about this is we have earlier talked about the niche being the situation your student is in, right? The situation your person is in. And it sort of says, okay, so do you have this problem? In a way, it's classic sales copy, right? Do you have this problem? Does it sound like you? Here's my solution. But it works so well, and it is so nicely integrated in this website. So I just want to give a shout out to Kristen, because I thought this was really pretty and really well done. So it just says, if you've taken English classes for years and you still can't speak, okay? So this is your frustration. You go from teacher to teacher, and here comes the rainbow. And the line, come back down to earth, talk the way people really talk. And here she is and says, hi, this is me. I can help you out.
Nice.
How beautiful is that? I think this is a very, very well done website. And, talking again about the difference that she makes. So like, I'm not just a language teacher. I am here to help you along on the journey. And I'm not recommending every learner watching this or every English teacher watching this copy Kristen's style, of course not. But I just thought I'll highlight this. It's down to earth English, like I said.
It has some elements that are good. I mean, I would love to like pick apart a few different websites. I mean, that's not what we're doing in this session, but maybe in the future we could offer that if people are interested in getting feedback on their websites. If you're listening and you want to let us know if that's something you're interested in, just let us know. And we can think about doing that in the future. But I think it's really helpful to look at other websites, take a look at what other people are doing, see what you like, what you don't like. And I know firsthand experience that it's really difficult to look at your own website and see the things that are working and not working. It's sort of like, I don't know, it's like it's hard to listen to your own voice, unless you record it. Does that make any sense? I don't know. It's just hard to see the things that you're doing from another person's perspective, because you're not another person.
I agree. So, just keep an eye out for, people have shared their websites and their recommendations in this group already, in this event. And, keep in touch with each other and look at each other's websites, because you may just get some inspiration from it. And, don't get disheartened if you think somebody else has got a pretty website, because that's not what it's all about. It's not about pretty, it's about message. Okay. Oh, do we have time for one more?
I suppose. I was thinking the same thing. Are you looking at Francis' question?
Yes. Okay, Francis.
Okay. Let's go back and forth. Let's
finish off with you.
What's that?
We'll finish off with Francis. Yes.
Okay, let's go back and forth. So I would say one thing not to do is don't try to do everything yourself. Should I explain or?
No, don't try to do everything yourself, I think. And then, because I think in a way, let's not explain it. And you really, Francis, it might be helpful to kind of work out what that means to you and tell us in Facebook what that means to you. Point number 2 is don't think you have to have a profile on every single social network ever. Oh, Gabby's frozen. So I'm just waiting for the applause. So yeah, don't think you have to have a profile on every social network ever. Let's see if we can get Gabby back. I just have to wait for a second. So she said, just to recap, don't try to do everything by yourself. Don't think you have to have a profile on every social network ever. And by that, I mean, to be honest, I don't care about Snapchat or even, I mean, I have a profile on Instagram, but I don't use it as a recruitment tool. Rather than if you're in a specific, if you're using a specific tool, just go for that one. So let me see. Well, I may have to ask Gabby to type her tips in and submit them in writing to you, Francis, because I think we may have lost her to Thailand. Yes, we have. I do apologize. So I guess we're going to continue these 5 tips in writing so that you definitely catch them in Facebook. I think that's a fair way of doing it. And then Gabby can give us a few more tips. And stay positive, stay motivated. It's been wonderful having you here for the Online Teaching Show. I've enjoyed all of your interactions so much. It's been great. Thank you. Please do not forget fluentlanguage.co.uk/show discounts. If you can't see anything on there that you'd like to purchase that you will find will help you with your online teaching career, all you need to do is still go to that website, because I want you to enter into the giveaway, because free stuff, right? I like free stuff. So it's pretty much, I enter in everything. And that is it from us.